Hello and welcome to Waterblog UK. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about stick mixes. Now I know everyone's using stick mixes at the moment. They are really a popular type of baiting, especially in carp fishing. But there are a few twists there which I think can just sort of give you a little bit of an edge on certainly on busier waters. Start with sort of the base mix, if you will, and what you're going to use to sort of carry all of your flavourings and your oils and so on. Now if you're on the bank, what I tend to choose is a smaller pellet. That means you can just grind it quicker, you can get a finer consistency a lot quicker. If I'm doing it at home, as I am at the moment, I just use something a little bit larger. In this case, these are sinking trout pellets, halibut pellets, 6 mils, just work out a bit cheaper overall basically. Good few handfuls, do a few handfuls at a time in the actual mixer itself, in the grinder rather. Blitz them away to a really fine powder, and the finer that powder is, the more flavour you're going to be able to pack into that stick mix. Chopped up, blitzed trout pellets or halibut pellets in the bag. To that I am going to add, or bucket, probably easier to do in the bucket. To that I'm going to add some sort of fishy base. So first of all, I love sardines. I think sardines are great. So just one tin of standard sardines. Just really mush them up with a fork beforehand and then mix them into the dry mix. It'll take very quickly. I like the way that the actual scales come away and you just get that breakdown and that flickering through the water as well from the scales. I think that's really nice. To that, we're then going to add some of our wet ingredients. Oil. Oil, obviously. What you're trying to go for is, with the oil, is an emulsion. You're creating an emulsion, so that is the finest possible fat droplets, oil droplets, combining with the actual dry mix itself. That way, you'll get, even in very cold conditions, you'll get a lovely release of that oil. In this case, just sesame seed oil. I love the smell of this. It's got a really lovely smell. It's like sort of burnt smell to it, and I've had a lot of success with that. It also complements the smell of the hemp seed. If you fish over hemp seed a lot like I do, it complements that rather well. So that's oil. You play around with the amount of oil you can actually pack in. Little, add a bit, leave it for a couple of days, see what the consistency's like. And what you're after is that typical, anyone that uses ground bait, if you use ground bait for sort of match fishing or pole fishing, you're after that sort of consistency where if you mould it, it holds, but with just gentle pressure it just breaks down again. You don't get a real idea of that straight away. You need to give that mix a couple of days beforehand before you really get the consistency down, because at first it's just really tacky, it's just very wet because those oils haven't soaked into the dry components as yet. So that's an oil. Okay, so we've discussed sort of seed oils, if you will. I want to now move on to more fishy based oils. Here we've got some liquid betaine pellet. Betaine is obviously a natural feeding stimulant for fish, which is really great. This one's actually got some green lip mussel in it as well. Green lip mussel is really rich in chondroitins, glycosamine, these sorts of things. These are really useful building blocks for fish around about the springtime. They need these to assimilate new proteins, so anything which is going to help them rebuild cells and so on over the winter is really useful. So that's why I've gone for maybe an oil like this over just standard halibut pellet, which I tend to use later on in the season when it's warming up. Shrimp paste, again, really sort of tried and tested. I buy mine from the Oriental supermarket. You can also get, if you can't get if you can't get shrimp paste rather, then just use good old-fashioned fish stock cubes, just crumble those up. I see a lot of controversy surrounding the use of salt in baits. I think with baits like this, or anything which is going to basically be dissolving down in a PVA bag, even in very cold water after sort of 10-20 minutes, most of that salt's going to have dissipated into the water itself, more of an attractive cloud rather than something for the fish to eat. That's going to have completely disappeared, so don't worry too much about overcooking it with the salts in stick mixes. That's my angle on this, definitely. Again, a bit of added flavour there, so squid brand fish sauce basically. Again, you've got to be a bit careful. This will go off, so if you're making this up in warm weather, you've got to make sure it's sealed and kept in a cool place, the mix. And that goes for the sardine you put in as well. Anything like the anchovies, they'll all go off quite quickly. So I just I add a good few gloves, give it some time, give it a sniff, add a few more gloves, give it a sniff. And as I say, just by building up your mix over a couple of days, you can get a really nice smell going on there, and a really sort of fishy flavour, but deeper than just fish. You get a bit more from it as well. The one little additional thing I like to add, this will seem a little bit odd maybe, is desiccated coconut. I love this stuff. It finds its way into my boilie mixes as well, and certainly more recently. But the reason I like it is more for colour. I love the colour of this. If I show you here, just on the lid of one of my buckets here, this is the actual finished stick mix itself. This stick mix that I've got here is actually about a year old, so it's had that chance to sort of ferment it. I keep it for long periods, obviously in the freezer. It will eventually go off, but you can certainly keep a mix like this for a couple of months in the fridge alone. And if you look through that, it's just got the desiccated coconut just worked through it. Imagine that as a stick mix in a stick being fished over something like hemp seed. It's just going to mix in. You're just going to have that. You can have that lovely area of intense scent, but it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb, which I think is the problem with a lot of stick mixes now, really bright stick mixes. Don't get me wrong, they will work, but for me, for more subtle approaches, I just think that just in and amongst your spotted area of hemp seed, it's just going to look beautiful. I'm also this year going to be playing around with some black hook baits, tipped with white as well, just so that you imagine that just sitting in and amongst that. Just very subtle, but you're just relying on that area of just really, really intense scent and oily emulsion there as well. Yeah, this, just remember, it doesn't look like much, but what you're dealing with, what fish are using down there in the dark, if you just think about fish feeding at night, they're entirely dependent on their senses. They're just using their sense of smell, which is highly sophisticated, just to hone in onto these areas, and you'll be amazed. If you just the more scent, the more oil you can pack into these stick mixes, the better. Better than a half a kilo bag of PVA being knocked out at 100 yards, just these little tiny packets of intense flavour, and that will remain in and around the area, providing it's not a huge amount of undertow. That will remain in the area around your hook bait for hours. I have a huge amount of confidence, if not days, to be honest. You'd be amazed how much scent's in there. And that's it. That's my little segment on stick mixes. I really hope that helps. Hopefully I'll be catching some fish on them in the next couple of days. I'll keep you posted. Thanks again. Bye bye.